in its policy statement this week, the U.S. Fed ignored the disaster in Japan, saying the economic recovery is, quote, on firmer footing. That statement came just a few days after the earthquake and before the extent of the nuclear crisis became clear. In a column today for Bloomberg News, PIMCO's co-CEO Mohamed El-Erian says the disaster could very well be a global tipping point. El-Erian joins us now on the phone. Mohamed, the world changed last Friday. The Fed statement didn't. Why was that the wrong choice?
Margaret, what struck us, and you just said it when we were discussing it in our investment committee, is how can you have a statement about the U.S. outlook on a Tuesday that follows a major catastrophe a few days earlier in the third largest economy in the world? And we thought there were two interpretations. The one, which we hope is the correct interpretation, the correct motive, if you like, for the Fed, is the Fed simply did not have enough information. The material for its meeting was prepared ahead of the earthquake and the tsunami, and there wasn't enough time to fully understand the impact on the U.S. economy. That's one interpretation, and I hope it's the right one. Mm-hmm. The second interpretation is something that's been said by certain economists, which is that the impact of the Japanese disasters on the global economy will be transitory in the sense that they will be temporary and reversible. And our view, it's too early to say that. We hope that that's the case, but it's too early to say that, and we shouldn't simply assume that it will have a transitory effect on the global economy. We should be analyzing in depth, because this is a major development that has economic implications in addition to the horrible human suffering.
You know, when this happened, people ran to the history books and looked at what happened with the Kobe earthquake back in 1995. That didn't have the tsunami aftershock. It didn't have the nuclear component here. So if people aren't bringing down their GDP forecast, if people aren't reacting, are they just not being realistic in your point of view?
Well, they're taking shortcuts. So they go back to 1995 and they say, well, in Kobe, what happened? GDP fell, but then you had a massive reconstruction program, and therefore GDP bounced back, and therefore the impact was transitory. That may well be true, but it's too early to conclude that, because there are three fundamental differences between 95 and today. First, this is a much bigger event. It's a bigger event because it's an earthquake and a tsunami that has impacted much more of the Japanese economy. The second element that make it different is that Japan is in a different place in terms of its debt to GDP. And it's not clear what mix of funding will you have. Will it all be done through borrowing, or will the private sector repatriate the investment held outside?
Right.
And thirdly, it comes on top of another supply shock, which is the Middle East, which is still ongoing. And there is major uncertainty not only about the Middle East, but also about Japan because of the nuclear element. So we are cautioning against a simple extrapolation from 1995 because this is different.
Are you seeing repatriation of funds by Japanese investors?
We have not yet. It's too early because the immediate effect is to worry about the human dimensions, and this is really a very, very sad situation. Mm-hmm. But we anticipate that it will be a mix of both borrowing by the government, including monetization, and repatriation. And that is what's going to be paying for a massive reconstruction program.
On the human front, your partner, Bill Gross, was on with us the day of the earthquake and tsunami. At that point, it sounded like all your employees in Japan were accounted for. What can you tell us about your operations now?
We're thankful that all our employees and their families are well. We triggered on that Friday our business continuity plan, which seeks to meet our clients' needs while also safeguarding the well-being and the health of our colleagues and their families. So some colleagues have been relocated to other offices in Asia. We have 3 other offices in Asia, and they've been relocated there. Others are essential personnel and are still in Tokyo, and the third group is working from outside Tokyo. So we continue to meet our clients' need while also safeguarding the well-being of our colleagues and their families.
Tell me about some of those clients. I mean, among Asian investors, are you seeing outflows from some of your funds? Are you seeing panic in Asia?
We're not. We're seeing many requests for information and analysis. And people are still trying to figure out what does it mean for them personally. And I wouldn't underestimate, especially for our Japanese colleagues, the personal element. I mean, people are still struggling to fully understand what happened. It's so enormous. And the amount of suffering that the Japanese society is going through is very large. So there's a period of shock, if you like, until people fully understand the enormity of what happened.
Mohamed, thank you for joining us, and I'm glad to hear your employees are accounted for, and it's impressive in the midst of all of this that they're going back to work and trying to establish some normalcy there.
Thank you.
Good luck to them.
I appreciate it. Thank you.